physically dominate you because they can crush you because that's what Warrior tends to do. Use brute strength. The idea is that they use total brutality in order to finish off their opponents. And we're going to go to game number 1 here. Warrior versus Warrior. Now, the thing is, Saiyan doesn't exactly have the normal lists. One of the more interesting techs that's making their way into deck lists today is Azalina Soul Thief. And that's not necessarily in Saiyan's primary deck, so we'll see that later on potentially. But players who've been talking about it on social media, they say that they feel like Azalina Soul Thief is superior to Elysiana, which is fairly interesting to me. And we'll see if that ends up coming to play this series. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, meanwhile, in their primary decks, which they're forced to game 1, Zalae does have the advantage because he has the copy of Archivist Elysiana, whereas JustSaiyan does not. We've seen this story multiple times throughout the first week of America's Grandmasters, where one player has included Elysiana in their primary and the other hasn't, and it has never gone the way of the player that hasn't. It's just too much of a deficit, and unless you manage to get to snowball pretty heavily in the early game and shuffle a lot of bombs and then play Blastmaster Boom on curve, it's so hard to win. Now, JustSaiyan, I feel like, even in this interview, he said one of his biggest strengths is that he can find lines of play or ways to win that aren't obvious, that other players don't try and go for. And he's going to have to flex that creativity in a big way in this matchup if he wants to have a chance of winning.
Nice flex, like that. Well, you know, Zalae was already starting to think about his turn 3 play. Seemed like Zalae would normally take his own advice. You play Clockwork Goblin because you have 3 mana, and it's the 3 mana card, and it's the minion, so you play it so it's in play.
I must choose.
Somebody order a bomb.
Seems like you put a little bit more thought into it. I mean, these kinds of hesitation could also be a way to make players like Saiyan think.
Yeah.
I do know that Saiyan does read into all those small clues. You know, one of the things that he might be hinting towards when he says that he looked for edges where people don't look to think, it could be that. Things like, hey, they pause for a while. What are some of the possibilities that would even cause them to think about something that is a normally very obvious play? And, you know, that stuff might end up sometimes confusing your opponent if they end up reading too much into it.
Yeah, one of the things that also JustSaiyan looks for, at least in brief conversations with him about it, when he's playing in a LAN environment, which is not the case for Grandmasters, he looks for body language clues when he plays stuff or when his opponents play stuff to try and get little hints. So definitely a huge min-maxer as far as Hearthstone strategy goes.
Interesting that Saiyan prioritizes pointing out here. It does grab him that early game board, but you know, I kind of anticipated him wanting to save the coin for Dr. Boom Mad Genius. It tends to be super impactful. So, you know, now that I see how the board ends up shaping up to be, you know, makes a little sense here that Saiyan's able to get that early game board control and potentially pick his opponent apart. But his turn 4 is not exactly as clean as you might expect it to be. He also does know that Zalae had played a Town Crier as well.
Yep.
So a bomb on both sides. TJ's diligently tracking alongside myself. We'll try to provide as best coverage as we possibly can, but you know, it's going to be a long day for sure because of that.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, and this is public rules. We have rules on the playhearthstone.com/esports page if you want to take a look at the full Grandmasters rules. It's very long. It covers a lot of things like penalties and punishments and weird tiebreaker snares and things like that. But deck trackers for Hearthstone are legal now in competitive Hearthstone for Hearthstone Grandmasters. So these players do have access and do have the ability
For the online portion.
for the online portion. That's correct. They do have the ability to track cards.
What about Masters Tours like Vegas coming up?
I don't know. I'd have to brush up on the rules.
Gotcha.
I will when I get there, but that's why I said specific Hearthstone Grandmasters.
When I show up, I'll look at the rules.
Yes. It's a lot of rules to go through, Dan. I
don't doubt it.
They've been revamped, and pretty much everything's covered. The funny thing is Dan and I don't. We don't have access to Hearthstone Deck Tracker. So here I'm trying to keep tally marks on every card that they've played thus far. And so we are going to try our best. But sometimes we're going to be right along there with you, where that last card in the deck could be a bomb, it may not be, and we'll just let it play out.
Yeah, the players will know, though.
Yes.
For sure. Saiyan doesn't have anything amazing to play here. Like we're trying to talk about, Ziliax on 5 is pretty much the play against aggressive decks when you're like at 17 or below this fast in the game. But later on, it has some really powerful implications with the magnetic ability. Saiyan favoring the tempo so much that he wants to just play his Dynamatic as a 5-mana 3/4. And then Zalae can answer with his second Militia Commander. I think with the Clockwork Gnome, it is slightly tempting to try to load up more bombs for the Blastmaster Boom and maybe curve this game out.
Somebody order a bomb.
So not the most mana efficient play or even the best tempo play, but it's an investment for next turn's tempo play.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, honestly. But playing Blastmaster Boom, Zalae kept Blastmaster Boom in the mulligan.
Right.
It is just one of the highest win rate cards. Both Booms are in a lot of matchups. So no surprise that he kept it. And if you're going to keep it, you might as well play into it. And it's not like this Dynamatic is threatening him outside of Ziliax. And honestly, if he gets Ziliax out of the way, that's one thing he doesn't have to worry about for the late game. When JustSaiyan, who is kind of forced to be in the aggressor in this matchup because of no Elysiana, that's one less card that Zalae has to worry about punishing him for leaving up a mech later in the game. So honestly, it's not that bad that he gets punished for trying to make the Blastmaster Boom play.
Fair enough. There are many ways that you can get to Ziliax, though. Mega Assembly and Delivery Drone will give you several chances for you to get other forms of life gain or armor gain.
True.
Zalae bumps in, Blastmaster Boom. This is what he was preparing for, although probably under better pretenses than having that 6/6 come down.
Honestly, it's not too bad, and one of the reasons why I also like the Clockwork Goblin last turn is playing Blastmaster Boom while your opponent has a board is actually good. Because if they're forced to use removal like Brawl or Warpath, they're also killing and damaging their own minions. So it kind of serves two purposes there. Now he gets to hold on to his Militia Commander for something else. JustSaiyan still has to find a way to deal with this board somehow.
Well, he has a pretty crafty play available to him. He could trade into the 7/7, Warpath once, then play the Eternium Rover and Warpath 2 more times. And what this allows you to do is, yes, you take a bunch of damage, but the Eternium Rover survives, and you still get to get the ideal number of triggers on this, as long as you don't take too much Boombot damage. Okay. I think you can also just play the Eternium Rover at the very end as well.
Yeah.
You can also just save it, because it does fit in with the Dr. Boom, and it does gain that rush ability.
Yeah, it also is a very cheap mech to magnetize later in the game. And we've been seeing players even just hold on to Eternium Rover on 1. They have it on 1, they hold on to it in Warrior Mirror matchups, because having a mech that you can play that has an effect like Eternium Rover, that you can say Delivery Drone, then Eternium Rover, then Beryllium Nullifier in the same turn.
Yep.
That's an exceptionally powerful play.
Absolutely. Or War Gear or something else, just to give Eternium Rover more health, more stats. So there's a lot of late game implications of it, and that's kind of the power of Dr. Boom Mad Genius, is it gives even the smallest of mechs a lot of latent power.
Yeah, sure, you can cash in on 4 armor right now and a 1/1 in play.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. It's not going to define the game by any means. If it was an aggro deck, like you're playing against Token Druid or even the Hunters on ladder, that's where the play that I was suggesting.
Yeah, maybe if those bombs
sense.
brought him down to like sub 5 health and he's dead to a bomb. Right, it's just 1 bomb in the deck, so.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is that Zalae can't contest this because he's on 9 mana, doesn't have the he doesn't have the 10 mana crystals available for Mega Devastator. Zalae picks up Dynamatic. That is a way for him to deal with the Blastmaster Boom, albeit He's using 2 cards to remove the front half of one. However, his hand has some pretty nice symmetry, first of all. The nice Omega Devastators with the Omega Assembly. He's got the Omega hand.
Omega lol.
The Omega Zero.
Ah, delivery drone right off the bat for Mad Genius.
Safeguard. That was the one that I was expecting the least. I was expecting, well, Dynamatic doesn't have that much importance in the Warrior matchup. However, it does have application against some minions. Most of them had died though, right? Second Militia Commander was used for Zalae.
Yep, Zalae's used both Militia Commanders, both Clockwork Goblins.
And his Blastmaster Boom.
And his
So there's less
Blastmaster.
application of that. Yeah, it makes more sense. Then the second card is the Coppertail Imposter, but he doesn't have any magnetic minions. So Safeguard is probably just the best overall minion right now.
Yeah. It also has a better chance of guaranteeing he has a mech stick. We talked about how since Saiyan doesn't have Elysiana, he needs to find a way to kill Zalae at some point in the game. And by having a mech stick, he has a better chance of pantsing up a Beryllium Nullifier with a Ziliax, War Gear, making just one giant mech that Zalae can't remove and trying to win the game off the back of it. So.
Yep. And the Omega Assembly gives Saiyan decent minions. The more I watch Security Rover in action, the more I feel like it's actually a pretty solid minion to pick up in most matchups, as long as you have the health total to support it, not die. It just adds so much complication to the way your opponent normally interacts. Like, it's really good against Warpath. It's great against, you know, any of those early microbot trades. It is weak to Militia Commander, but against other Rish minions, it tends to be pretty fine. Boom Reaver, Clockwork Goblin, Pinata. Definitely a very solid one here for Zalae.
It's funny. Those are the ones, almost the exact ones that Saiyan wants. He wants Hecklebot, he wants Weaponized Pinata, he wants Clockwork Goblin, he wants Boom Reaver. Those are like the 4 absolute best mechs that Saiyan would love to have because he needs a chance to disrupt Zalae's Elysiana gameplay. Or put on pressure, and those cards do a mix of those things.
Zalae has a Clockwork Goblin, that's an opportunity as well.
Oh, I love that
So that's the third bomb shuffled in.
I believe that's only 2 because he drew one last turn.
Right, third bomb shuffled in, 1 drawn.
1 drawn.
Saiyan picks up his Wrench Caliber. He has a lot of weapon tools at his disposal. Not exactly the ideal hand. Missile Launcher has
This would be a good time for a master
has a pretty okay application here because it can clear off most of the board.
Yeah, you could do something like trade into the Clockwork Goblin. Hope it hits the Weaponized Pinata. If it does and brings it down to 1 or 0, you magnetize and go all face.
Yeah, you could also
Okay,
maybe just
then.
Security Rover and keep it simple. Like
Sure.
Zap this, Security Rover, trade.
It's the more consistent play, right?
So he picks up a Nixia. Wow. Nixia seems to be a pretty decent option in a matchup where, you know, your opponent uses Brawl a little bit more liberally.
I mean, his hand is just all big stuff right now. He barely has any of his removal outside of Brawl. It's just a bunch of big old mechs and a Nixia. Oh, and a Skater Boy.
With the Bronze Gatekeeper.
Oh, the ultimate combo.
Yeah, I mean, you wait, you wait and see, TJ. The mechs will eventually come rising up. They're slowly gathering themselves and assembling all the parts.
Assembling all the skateboards.
Yes.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Despair. Destruction.
That's not really the minion that Zalae was looking for with the Eternium Rover. Doesn't really do much here. Was hoping to take down the Security Rover in one fell swoop. In fact, he kind of hopes this Eternium Rover bites the dust. It does not. So Saiyan able to squeeze out a little bit more value off the Security Rover.
Unfortunately, this game is not about value for JustSaiyan.
No, he loses to the Elysiana long term. So I don't think that he does have the option to do that.
You can always hope for something crazy to happen. As I mentioned, getting weaponized pinata, getting a good string of bombs.
There is a cool interaction with Missile Launcher and Security Rover, by the way. If you attach Missile Launcher onto another minion besides the Rover, you can keep activating and summoning a little bit more, some security guards. But he does need to keep the health higher, so he might end up magnetizing as the game goes on. Right now, don't think there's any use for it. Just pass. Still a reasonable sized board that Zalae has to deal with, and things that both the Dynamatic nor Omega Devastator, 2 premium removal tools, are very efficient at. In terms of discards, it tends to be one of the weakest ones you'll see. Eternium Rover, Goblin Blom, not very much.
Clockwork Automaton does have synergy with 2 out of the 4 Dr. Bumagini's hero powers.
Okay, then.
But it is expensive, and the body's kind of small for its ability to rush. He already has a very expensive hand, but I still think that in long term it is better than Eternium Rover. So but yeah, a very below average discovery there. Not surprised. You can't win them all, Dan.
Yeah, you can't get lucky every single outcome, but you try to make the best of what you've got. And you know, there are worse mechs than Clockwork Automaton. Trust me. I mean, you see one of them in the hand. Skater Boy is not going to really do much. Right? I mean, the stats were low enough that this was somewhat the expected value. Brawl being used pretty liberally,
which is almost always the case in this matchup.
Which is why Onyxia might be a bigger deal than we might initially think.
Dan, Brawl is the worst card in Warrior.
Is it?
Versus Warrior Mirrors.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Saiyan, Harrison Jones pickup allows him to draw 3 more cards. But he's going to have a full hand, so he can dump 1 more. Has room for it in the form of Eternium Rover. Blast Shield to gain 7 armor. Woo! 40 life. Slowly catching up to Zalae.
Light the fuses!
So they're going to answer right back. Ends up spending his mana for the Bronze Gatekeeper. Probably could recognize his hand is... he's not really going to get too much use off a Bronze Gatekeeper in terms of combinations. I think it's fine. In the end, I think Zalae knows at times on his side, so just playing defensive is still perfectly acceptable here.
Yeah. And honestly, this is also...
This would be a good time
little
for a
aggressive,
master
right?
plan.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to find a game plan as Saiyan right now. He's just kind of on autopilot, and honestly, you have to be. You have to wait until a plan shows itself to you, and when you're playing an Elysiana versus non-Elysiana versus Elysiana matchup. Because unless you just curve out and just keep a bunch of damage sticking in the early game, the kill and plan is not going to work. And outside of that, it's just crazy stuff, right? It's your opponent shuffles a lot of bombs into your deck, which means that you can keep yourself at 10 cards. and try and discard the bombs in order to get closer into fatigue. If your opponent draws aggressively early on, maybe you can try and come even in the fatigue that way. But it's basically like Omega Assembly and Delivery Drone that have to give you the goods in order for you to try and piece together a game plan. Sometimes it's Mechathune, sometimes it's Weaponized Pinata, sometimes it's Hecklebot. Unfortunately, a little too late in the game for Saiyan, because Zalae's already picked up the Elysiana.
Is it just this Elysiana? There's no other bounces?
There are no other bounces, not in his primary deck. And Saiyan also has 2 Acolytes of Pain, and unfortunately, those are pretty dead cards. He's already drawn aggressively through his deck. He does have to recognize when he can try and throw these into the mix and hopefully brawl them away. Just for the off chance that he gets Mechathune and that becomes a possible win condition. But
wow.
Yeah.
An early concede here from Saiyan. I think he, again, recognizes that he doesn't have an out here. And yes, he could drag it out for like this very minute.
Masters players, as we've seen, with many of them saying day 2, game number 2. That tertiary deck that you mentioned from Saiyan with Alexstrasza, Grom Hellscream, Azalina, and double augmented Elec. So he's basically doubling down on kind of the minion-based pressure, while also having Azalina, which does a couple things. You can either choose to put Elysiana plus bouncers in your deck list, or you can choose to put Mechathune in your deck list. Those are kind of like the 2 strategies. Azalina kind of covers both of those, because whatever your opponent is going to do in the late game, you can copy. So you can take the identity of both. And the weird thing about Elysiana is that Mechathune counters it. Then more bouncers for Elysiana counters less bouncers from Elysiana. And less bouncers from Elysiana, more pressure counters Mechathune. Azalina just counters it all. Theoretically. It doesn't always work out like that in practice.
I like that. I was just kind of like not giving you nothing. You just laugh at your own analysis as well.
Well, because that's what it is.
Yes. In theory.
Yeah, in theory.
Continue,
it didn't work out in practice yesterday for Saiyan. Yes, the theory behind it is
careful now.
What?
You don't want Saiyan tweeting at you, do you?
He lost the game and the match.
Whoa! Slow down, TJ, please. You are a professional caster.
One could say losing that match was a huge mistake.
Oh, I have a twit longer prepared and ready to go.
But I do like the idea of the Azalina Assault.
Yeah, I actually do think it's quite ingenious. All memes aside, very candidly, some of the players talking about how Cash needs to step it up. We are trying to, and you definitely is trying to match the pace and stride of the players who are also trying to step up their game as well. Welcome all criticism, both from the players and the casters alike. So I only say that because I feel like some people might take that as like out of context. So I feel the need to clarify. Now let's hop back into this game. Early Town Crier from Zalae helps him get the rushed minions on board. Gives him an answer to the Augmented Elec, which Saiyan kind of knows is a strong possibility. Hoping that's not the case, but very much is. Answering the Augmented Elec is fairly important just because the bombs... The more I watch the Warriors play, the more I do realize bombs do matter. I used to think it was somewhat inconsequential, but towards the late stage of the game, it adds this very important dynamic of pressuring your opponent to make sure that they have to choose their life total or Elysiana. And when I say life total, it's not because of the bomb pressure, it's because you're setting up so much board presence that the Elysiana, they're taking damage anyways, but if they don't, then they have the threat of drawing with their bombs naturally, and then the Elysiana, normally for fatigue, but they still have taken like 20 bomb damage.
And then you follow that up with Azalina Soul Thief in JustSaiyan's case, once you've expended your board resources, and you're technically ahead, right? That's kind of the logic behind it.
Yeah, the concept has largely originated because Elysiana is... The players are finding it to be a lot weaker than they originally thought. It's just like a one-of to make sure that you can beat or have the edge over other warriors. But in almost every other matchup, it really doesn't apply very much.
No.
It often just feels like an 8-mana 7/7 that disrupts with your deck.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people want that to be their deck. So Azalena's ulti gives you more range because it's more adaptable to different situations. Let's say you're going up against, you know, another class like Mecha'thun, anything.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, now I have the pieces of the combo as well, and you know, maybe I can pair together my own Mecha'thun win condition. It actually gives you an out as opposed to floundering around for weaponized Pinata and Mega Assemblies.
Yeah, and so Saiyan actually has a... If he were to go against an Mecha'thun deck, he has a lot of cycle. He has double Acolyte of Pain. He has the Harrison Jones Weapon Project combination. He has double Shield Block. And those cards exist in all of his decks with one Weapons Project cut tertiary deck. So, yeah, I like it. It's just not having Archivist Luciana in his main deck, or Azalina in his main deck, which we debated on yesterday, or who was his opponent yesterday? Or the day before? Said that, oh, I think Azalina should be in the main deck. It might have been Dog.
Oh, yeah. I think Dog... Well, Dog's saying that he felt like it was a creative tech. He said he thinks it should be in the primary deck.
The primary deck, yeah, which would make more sense to me because Saiyan has basically been conceding these primary games, these game ones, because he doesn't have that backup, that fatigue backup in his primary deck. So he's fighting at a deficit. And we didn't really talk about Zalae's secondary deck here.
Right, he has the Mojo Master Zihi, which can really mess with the Mecha'thun combos, obviously. He has Sephorium Bomber, which happened to shuffle a bomb and immediately get drawn, working as intended. Second bomb shuffled into Zalae's deck with the Augmented Elic. Bomb being drawn immediately. Something is weird in the waters of Dalaran, TJ, and I need to figure out what exactly that is, because if I can crack the code, I will win every Bomb Warrior matchup I ever play for the rest of time. It's got to be like you squash the melon on the left, you pick the top right flower, and then you spin the wheel twice.
No, Dan, it's when you play Clockwork Goblin on the far right. Because it's closest to the deck.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Where you shuffle the bombs into the deck is based off of proximity of the bomb card that you play. That's why when you play Wrench Caliber, it's all the way in your hand. You're shuffling those to the bottom of the deck. You play Sephorian Bomber, you play Clockwork Goblin, you play those closer to the deck, it shuffles them closer to the top. It's just science, Dan.
Yeah, but wouldn't the Clockwork Goblin, because it's aligned to the right, also be on the rightmost? So if you play it to the leftmost, it should be on the left side of the deck, aka the closest card that you draw.
That's not how it works.
I know, I'm saying logically, though. It feels like pattern would make more sense.
Dan, it's science. Don't argue with it. Next, you're going to tell me you're a flat earther.
I don't know. I've never been able to zoom out and see Azeroth as a round sphere, TJ.
Azeroth actually is a flat earther.
Pretty sure every map released by Blizzard Entertainment has indicated that Azeroth is flat. What's the name of the planet that they're on? Is it Azeroth?
Azeroth.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that's just like a continent. No, that's like
like Northrend or
yeah, or like the Broken Isle,
the
like a continent.
Eastern Kingdoms, is that the other one?
Sure. Pandaria.
Pandaria. Yeah.
Pandaria. I don't know. But didn't they like
the Broken Isles?
Didn't they like do something and like went to a different planet?
They did.
One
yeah.
point?
I don't know what that planet was called.
Okay. Another bomb being.
Those are the only two bombs. So Zalae has no bombs.
He's gonna tempo him out of the game. He has useless tech cards. He has Elysion, an 8-mana 7/7, cool. He's got Mojo Master Zihi, cool. He's got Harrison Jones. He can't shield slam the 6/5 because it's Divine Shield. So he has to brawl the 6/5 away. That's his best chance of removing it. He can throw the Baleful Banker in, but he's throwing away his advantage.
It actually isn't an advantage. Because for every card you throw away that's a bounce effect, you're denying it also from Saiyan. Because his win condition is Azalina.
What now?
So if you throw away a Baleful Banker or a Youthful Brewmaster, even if you just throw away Elysiana, it's hard to throw away Elysiana because you're getting rid of your deck. It's still denying that resource from Saiyan as well, so you're not falling behind.
Yes, but I think Saiyan likes that because the closer that they become even in resources, the more it becomes about the quality of the cards that exist in their deck. And just, you know, straight up 1-for-1, Grom's Hellscream fares a lot better than a banker in a fight.
And Alex Straza as well is in the deck.
Yes, Alex Straza is also pretty powerful. One of the strongest dragons in the world of Azeroth. Like, the reason why I only bring that up is because every time I looked over and saw people playing Raid, it's like when they're playing against like Malagos and raiding it, they're always like in space. And I was thinking, when are we gonna get a space expansion in Hearthstone?
They did have one. It was Legion. You went to a whole nother planet.
No, I meant in Hearthstone.
Oh, in Hearthstone.
When are we going to space, TJ? When do we get the Tesla rocket ship expansion?
Dan's trying to
He's
get
frozen
information.
because I called him on the next expansion reveal.
Dan's trying to get information out of me.
Aren't we all?
My lips are sealed, Dan.
Isn't that like your primary, like, isn't that like one of the main perks of being a Blizzard employee is that you know it's coming and other people don't? You like to gloat over it?
Yes, that's exactly why I made the choice to go work for Blizzard. Just so I could
Not
gloat.
the health insurance to raise your family.
Honestly, being able to gloat about my achievements in video games has been the motivation behind most of the things that I've done in life.
Touche. It's even led to a career.
And
if that's what we're calling it right now.
It's as close as you can get to one, if it's not one, Dan.
Zalae gets the brawl and cleans up the minion cleans up the Divine Shielded Ziliax combo as we're talking about, but that's not going to stop the pain. Grom Hellscreen comes down, and now that brawl's gone, Zalae has to find another way to deal with it. And Ziliax and the Automatic don't exactly clear this off, I believe?
No, not at all.
Oh, wait, it does. Because it's guaranteed to hit the Grom 3 times at least, and then a 6 health minion.
It doesn't clear the Town Crier if it doesn't hit it. Oh, that's perfect.
Right, and then the Magnetic allows it to kill off the Grom.
Perfectly done.
Yes, although it still doesn't stop the big problem, which is Saiyan keeps pressing it for tempo. And now he has the opportunity to go for a Mega Assembly, or perhaps is this?
Don't you dare say it, Dan.
I don't think it's the Azalina.
No, the Azalina is kind of the last-ditch effort. Now he has seen that Zalae struggled to handle this board and has been handling it from the far right.
Right.
But Azalina is just too big of a resource.
Nice pickup there. The mechanical whelp makes Warpath a lot weaker. Ideally, Zalae would like to go for the Warpath clear. But this is an anti-Warpath. This is an anti-Warpath board. Dr. Boom Mad Genius, good pickup. It's good, but it still doesn't solve Zalae's problem, which is he's staring down 7 a turn at the very least.
But it gives him more options to solve the problem if he gets Delivery Drone, or even if he gets Blast Shield to buy himself some more time.
If you're Saiyan, are you just jamming this Mechathune next turn? 10 mana, 10/10. Bulldozer, Omega Devastator. Great removal options. Saiyan utilizes the shield slam here. I think 10 mana 10/10 ain't half bad. You also kind of want to dump your resources so that Azalina you have like you have a stronger reason to Azalina. And also, it works in your benefit to pressure, because the more you put stats on the board, the less likely they are to use their Elysiana, so you don't miss that timing.
Yeah.
And that Mega Devastator, though, super important pickup.
Okay, then.
Huh. That's almost exactly the same Omega Assembly that Saiyan had, except instead of the Mechathune, he has a Clockwork Goblin.
Save the best for last.
Wow, Mechathune, don't be so dramatic.
sounds like he just got out of bed.
Oh, I love that fuse thing. Somebody order a bomb.
Clockwork Goblin shuffling another bomb into Saiyan's deck here. Thing is, though, by leaving these minions up, he gives the Mechanical Whelp an opportunity to strike back. Another Omega Assembly. This is good stuff for Saiyan because he didn't really have much to play outside of this Acolyte Warpath. So he knows that the left hand of Zalae hasn't been played for a long time. He has to either know that they are removal cards that are very situational, such as Warpath. You said Zalae had 1 brawl or 2 brawls? He's got 2 brawls.
In his secondary deck, he only has 1.
Okay, so 1 brawl has been... 1 brawl is something that he can consider. Trying to think about when he wants to play as Zalea's Soul Thief. He's gonna go for it right now. He reads
the call has been made.
Too many cards.
And he got both of the tech cards from Zalae, the Baleful Banker and the Archivist Elysiana.
What a read.
So now, outside of Zalae having Dr. Boom Mad Genius, Saiyan is now on even footing, and I think he is also just kind of baffled.
Sure, didn't look surprised at all.
He looked a little surprised. Now, it's obviously a read. You almost never play as Lena that early, unless you have nothing else to do, which he had things to do. He had Omega Assembly.
Yeah, he had Omega Assembly. He had card draw. He could have developed behind that Omega Assembly.
And now there was he discarded Brawl. He discarded Omega Assembly. Acolyte of Pain.
Good stuff. It's things like this that separate Saiyan from some of the other players that you might watch because he's so in tune with that kind of play. I personally thought he would have kept holding it for a while, right? Because Zalae has still 11 to 12 cards in his deck before he makes his play. But he said he felt like he had enough information to make this read, and he doesn't want to waste his opportunity. Plus, if you think about it, Aslan is also a big mana investment as well.
Oh, I love that
So he wanted to get it out of the way. Now this Mechanical Whelp comes into play here.
And the card stain was given up with pretty useless cards in the matchup. Acolyte, Warpath, Brawl. Omega Assembly, you can always make the argument that Omega Assembly is one of the best cards in the late game for pretty much any matchup.
I thought he wanted to get value off of it before he has Lena. So that, because the thing is, if you play Mega Assemblies, and let's say Zalae plays his Mega Assemblies, and then you don't, even if you copy his Elysiana, you're behind in resources.
Yes.
So that's why I thought he was going to go for the Omega Assembly. He chose not to.
But then if you play a Mega Assembly, you're not getting full value unless you play all of your mechs, and then you give time for Zalae to potentially give up some of those resources, or make his hand smaller so you get less value. So it kind of works both ways.
It's true.
I think the 5th card that was discarded was a weapons project, but I'm not entirely sure, so my count could be off.
I think it was a Shield Slam.
Oh, was it a Shield Slam? Okay. The second one?
Yes, he used one of the Shield Slams.
Okay. So trying to keep diligent track of things, but... And this is not his Warpath. This is the Warpath from...
The other Warpath.
From Zalae's hand.
One of the big difference makers, though, is Zalae has Dr. Boom Mad Genius and Saiyan does not.
Absolutely.
This delivery drone is big because, you know, Zalae does not want to develop anything, does not want to draw deeper into his deck with Shield Block. Weaponized Pinata.
My absolute favorite card in Warrior Mirrors specifically.
It's just great card art. Look at that. Its rocket propulsion doesn't even make sense. It's jetting forward and backwards simultaneously. Where's it going?
For a master plan.
It's not going anywhere because it's tied to a tree being beat by small children.
Sounds like a regular Tuesday for me.
I'm not going to even try and decipher what that even means.
Playing Hearthstone at the park.
Oh, okay, I see. You're tied to a tree playing Hearthstone.
Getting beat by
You're getting beat by small children, okay. Dan, I want to join you on the weekends one of these days. You sound like you know how to have a good time.
My weekends are taken for the next 7 weeks at least.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Our weekends are now Tuesday and Wednesday.
That's why I said Tuesday, because that's the day that I have air quote off. Although don't tell my boss over on Twitch. That's okay, they'll never find out. It's not like we broadcast on that site anyways. Nah. Please don't fire me, Aaron. We have JustSaiyan, who has the weaponized pinata and the wrench caliber, and keep in mind what we were talking about, right? That delicate balance of the bombs being shuffled in versus the Elysiana setups. So that's another bomb shuffled into Zalae's deck. Whoa! Tink Master Overspark.
Oh,
How many times
yeah.
have we said that card could have been used in like a Mechathune setup?
The boom!
Uh-oh. Got him.
It's just a squirrel that was hiding inside the mechanical whelp. Man, Tink Master Overspark. I haven't seen that card played in so long.
The last time I saw it played was actually in the commercial for Hearthstone. You remember those commercials?
The Guac Boy one?
No, I think before that. We've all forgotten Guac Boy, let's be honest.
I think Guac Boy was such a traumatic event that I've wiped every memory preceding that commercial.
Yep.
Because it's all I can think about when you say Hearthstone commercial. Oh, I do remember another one where it was like a pseudo Coliseum, and then there's like fake casters, and they did like a winning interview.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's Hearthstone.
Looks like there's gonna be a substitution.
Oh, that's the Tink Master Overspark one?
I don't know, that might be the Inertron one. Whoa, that's Hearthstone.
Harrison draws Harrison. Oh, that's the Harrison from the Azalina.
Yes, he got a Harrison from the Azalina, so he still has a Harrison left. I'm struggling to keep track of these cards.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
So, Saiyan with this play seems like he, well, one, his resources were kind of weak.
No.
But two, he needs to find a way to not lose too much on the tempo. Yes, he was even in the fatigue count, but he didn't want to fall so far behind. He has one extra bomb shuffled in Zalae's deck, so if he plays a Clockwork Goblin, the Blastmaster Boom will summon 4 Boom Bots, if I recall correctly.
I think he only has one bomb in Zalae's deck.
Right, so if you play the Clockwork Goblin, he would have
4, yeah. So he'd have 4 total. I think Saiyan here is just trying to accelerate his ability to play Dr. Mad Genius. If I count it correctly,
you're right.
JustSaiyan has 2 bombs in his deck, which means he actually only has 2 actual cards left in his deck. One of those being Dr. Boom Mad Genius. The other one, I'm going to try and figure this out here.
Yeah, I totally forgot that he didn't have Dr. Boom. Zalae, what's his best tempo play in this spot? 2 bombs are in. Therefore, you can summon 4 Boom Bots. Trade in the Tink Master, trade in the Microbot. It's a full board. And then you play Boom Master Boom? Blast Master Boom?
Then.
Here comes
Doom Master Flume?
Forbiddenness Floop.
And his Glorious Gloop.
I think the last 2 cards in Saiyan's deck are Shield Block and Dr. Boom Mad Genius. My deductive reasoning, potentially. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, is this a Mojo Master Z he plays by Saiyan? He wants to stop him from playing Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Oh, it was Alex Strauss.
And he didn't even draw it. So, you know, it was a really crafty play from Zalae to stop Saiyan from getting what he wants. But Saiyan doesn't even get it anyways. Dr. Boom, effectively his last card. The other 3 cards are bombs.
Maybe.
We think. Based on our archaic methods of tracking bombs, which are tally marks
That belongs in a museum.
on a piece of paper.
Oh, it's a brawl. So 2 of them are
2 bombs. Yeah, one brawl. And then,
It's because one exploded when he drew Harrison. When he drew with Harrison.
When he drew with Harrison, that's correct. And then, yeah, it has to be Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Yeah.
I lost track of a shield block somewhere along the way, but I guess he used those earlier on, or maybe that was the mystery card that he...
His Harrison drew a shield block, and I think he used it.
Okay, gotcha.
Zalae with the very ironic, well, self-inflicted mana limitation with Mojo Master Zihi. This means he can't play his Blastmaster Boom. So, let's just say that this is pretty awkward.
He could still keep up tempo in other ways, and
oh yeah,
he could
militia commander here.
Yeah, and he could stay ahead on board going into Saiyan's inevitable Dr. Boom Mad Genius turn, which he pretty much has to play.
Oh, I love that.
And then there's the weird situation where Saiyan also has to play Elysiana. And he doesn't have enough mana for 3 more turns to Elysiana plus Baleful Banker, so he's going to be floating farther into fatigue. So he is definitely going to die.
He's going to take 2 bomb damage, and then he's going to put him down to 14, and he's staring at 13 on the board. Sorry, going to be at 11. Oh! Whoa!
Okay.
Oh, no, he doesn't have enough mana to play Archivist. I was like, dude, what if he could just, like...
No, he doesn't have a mana Archivist, and then if he Archivist without Baleful Banker, Zalae can just take it slow and win in the super late game.
It's true, but I feel like he's in the situation where he doesn't really get to choose because of that Mojo Master tech.
No.
And what's funny is that Saiyan knew this was coming the entire time, or he knew there was a possibility of happening. And if he plays Dr. Boom, he's accepting the fact that he's going to take at least 10 more damage.
So many choices.
So he goes up to 28. He goes up to 30 with the Eternium Rover, but takes 3 damage, so 27 with 20 damage guaranteed. So he's at 7 effective life if he Dr. Boom Mad Genius is here.
And then the funny thing is, Zalae can just play Blastmaster Boom. And since he didn't draw the bombs this turn, there's still 2 in the deck, which means Blastmaster Boom summons 2 bombs. So Saiyan's going to have to deviate here, hope that he wins a brawl. He does! Oh!
That's Hearthstone!
Yes, it is.
But, you know, in all seriousness, that was a massive win here for Saiyan to be able to get that because he needed to reduce the amount of power on board. Zalae takes some damage from the bomb, but now Blastmaster...
Oh, man, this is brutal.
Is there like a weird world where like Zalae does enough damage to kill Saiyan next turn? No, because the Eternium Rover gives him 2 life each time.
Wow, no tax.
Bomb.
And last card we know is a bomb as well, so he's going into fatigue.
Ooh. It's 11 damage.
Oh, man.
This might be too much to handle here. Like, Saiyan just does not have enough time or mana or life.
Yeah. He can gain maximum 4 this turn if he attacks into a bomb, and the bomb it goes over to his Eternium Rover. So he'd go up to 16, and then with Dr. Boom Mad Genius, he'd go up to 23. 1 fatigue next turn, that's effective 22 health, and there is 13 on board. So he'd be floating sub 10. He could Alex Strauss the following turn, but then he still has to find a way to deal with Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Which is Cauldron. Don't think Serpent Ward's gonna do anything.
Gotta move.
Here's Crowley or Operative. Wow,
Oh,
that's a
man.
freaking awkward one. Barista Lynch.
Okay, that's interesting.
Another Baleful Bank. Okay, so you can offset the fatigue by playing Baleful Banker and playing Barista. But this is, of course, if he doesn't take too much damage. He took 4 from the boom bots. He's just dead.
Oh, you got me.
Zalae 2-0 with the victory over JustSaiyan and the Aslian Soul Thief. It was cute.